So when you think of financial planning, what do you think of? For most people, including myself, I thought that it's for the wealthy and mostly geared towards like retirement. So when I was young, I was like, I'll think about that later or whenever I actually make some money. But financial planning can actually be for you now. Hola, I am Violeta, your host of the Money Chisme podcast, where we just talk about personal finance, real estate investing, entrepreneurship, and really just money talks and get the chisme on everything that has to do with money, relatable to the Latino and POC community. And today with me is Nadia Vanderhall from the Brands and Bands Strategy Group. And we are going to talk about financial planning and how we can change our view of retirement. Hi, Nadia. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you for having me. I know the name of the company can be like a little bit of a tongue twister. It's like, hold a minute. But yeah.
I I'm not gonna lie because I speak Spanish too, and so sometimes my brain
Uh-huh.
gets mixed up. I had to practice that, and I was like, I know I'm just gonna mess that up, like
Look,
brands and bands.
it's, yeah.
But I like it. I like it. Brands and bands. I was like, oh, that's a cool name.
Yes.
But yeah, thank you for being here. And before we dive into financial planning, I want the audience, the listeners, to get to know you a little bit. So feel free to introduce yourself and what more about your company and all that.
Like you said, I am Nadia Vanderhall. I'm a financial planner as well as an educator. I understand their wallet while they build their wealth. I started the brands and bands, the recession of the 2008 recession. Depends on who you ask when the recession was. When I was working at a financial institution here in Charlotte, and they let go of 80% of us to ship it off, well, most of the workload off to India. And
Mhm.
I was upset, but I took the time to start blogging, want to start blogging. But the funny thing about that, it's not really funny, but not funny, was that during that time I wasn't really good with money and I
Mhm.
legit took all of my 401k out because I didn't have an emergency fund.
Yeah.
And I was like, I don't know what I'm doing. Stitch. But it was that time and the time, the years after that, where I started to say, I messed up, I fumbled my money, and now how can I actually start understanding and building back and budgeting and things like that. And I
Mhm.
started my company as I started working at other financial institutions in
Mhm.
marketing and noticing how they were handle people with different pockets, different ways, if you know what I mean. The more money you had, the affluent you were, the more attractive and attentive and educational they were given with the marketing and messaging. But with those that were
Mhm.
which people of color are
Mhm.
considered to be that sometimes they weren't really giving that education that people needed to build, understand their wallet and build their wealth. And I started
Yeah.
my company as of just posting on Facebook and talking about money. And if I see something, I talk about it. And then next thing I know, I was creating content around it. Next thing I know, I was blogging more about it. And next thing I know, I am now talking to you. I made the move from just being not only just a money creator to a financial planner. I actually start my CLP next month. It'll be recording. I wanted to do that because I noticed that those that couldn't afford financial planning was those who
Mhm.
needed financial planning. And that's why I started my company. My company is part financial planning and part bands and brands. And people like, what the brands part is? Because I work in marketing for a services institution and now I help companies understand their messaging and things like that.
Okay. Yeah, when I went to your website, I was like, brand, because I didn't get like brands and bands, and I was like, oh, okay, yeah, now it makes sense that you do both. And I totally get the whole like when they treat you differently, like when they are always surprised
Yeah.
when they realize that I'm like a real estate investor and that I know about money and stuff. And when I would when I bought my most recent home that I sold, but they didn't realize that I was the one that knew everything, and they would
Oh,
go to my husband, who just happened to be white to smell, and it is like, "Hello, I'm the one with the money over here and the knowledge," and he would just, "She's the one with the money, and she's the one that knows," and then their demeanor changes every single time. So I definitely get that, even still, like randomly when you tell people. They
Mhm.
always act surprised.
Mhm.
But yeah, so let's go ahead and get started in with just what a financial planner is and what is it that they do.
See, here's the thing, when you people think about financial planners, they either get confused by financial advisors or they get
Mm-hmm.
confused by either financial coaches. And I interestingly enough wrote a blog post on it. Financial advisors are more so they're going to advise and manage your assets. Financial coaches are going to coach you, and financial planners are pretty much understanding the pace of what's going on with your money and helping you guide you with the plan towards those key goals. And how I actually formulated my company was it was like a mashup between a financial coach and a financial planner. Because
Mm-hmm.
not too many financial planners are going to be like, hey, you might need to do this with your budget. Hey, you overspend on this. Me, no, I'm going to go. I'm going to tell you this is what you need to do with your cash flow planning. This is what you need and how it's going to level up into other areas. So a financial planner is aligning your goals to what you goes on in your day to day, and then how
Mm-hmm.
those funds is going to formulate and fund the rest of your life. Rather it's retirement, rather it's generate intergenerational wealth, rather it's whatever you envision it to be. Because it's like the smart method, but yet when it comes to goal planning, but aligning it with your accounts, your accountability, and things like that.
Yeah, that's true because I thought financial advisor was similar, was basically the same thing as financial planner for, and then it's like, okay, so I guess the financial advisors are the ones that are like you have to make a certain amount or have a certain portfolio.
Surprised at some planners who do operate in that same, it's like
Yeah.
in and out of it. And that is
Hmm.
honestly the reason though why I wanted to formulate my company to be a advice only flat fee, because I don't want people to think that they have to have assets under management being 500,000 in their accounts and now they can't work with somebody, because it's flat fee, meaning whatever you pay me is just you, it's on the website, we agree or what have it,
Hmm.
because that allows it to be affordable for people and for them to see how it's going to keep them accountable in growing their accounts, and even how it aligns to their behavioral finance aspect of financial planning.
Yeah, I love that because you're getting people at the beginning of their
Mhm.
financial journeys instead of waiting till they're like already good. Most of the time, by that time, they already know a little bit what they're doing. But meanwhile, people like me, because I was the same, like I was just spending my money. It just like, woohoo, right? And I would have, and I actually thought about, uh going to financial planning or was I thinking of financial advisor? I can't remember at that time. But what deterred me was one, I thought I had to have a lot of like more money. And two, I did think about the fees. I was like, oh, but I don't even have that much money. Like, is it going to be worth it to spend that money for the little assets that I have, like the little $100 that I got in my check, right? But it's more than that, right? Like you're saying, it's helping you plan what you're bringing in and all that with your goals.
hmm And then I noticed someone said in a Facebook group today, literally, they got in a large or a sizable inheritance, but they wanted to work with a financial advisor or a planner, but they didn't want to have to get hit with those fees because the AUM and other fees and service fees and stuff like that can go interchangeably. And a lot of people don't know the right questions to ask to see if they have a fee, what the fees for, what will kind of trigger the fee to happen, and then how often will they have to pay it, and then where how would it be paid to that firm or that practice? Because they were like, I don't want to have to deal with that, but I just want someone to help me plan these goals or plan this inheritance and grow it.
Hmm.
And that things that people see now when it comes to asking questions. And I think I made my last YouTube video about common things that people think that they can do small, and how it
Hmm.
can grow and make big impact. And that's what I think a couple financial planners, I'm not gonna say all, get, is because everyone's not going to be able to say, oh, I have $500 to move here, move this and do that. Most
Hmm.
people need to understand the other 500 is having
Hmm.
to the $500 for emergency. So it's like
Hmm.
taking that step back is what a lot of financial planners are seeing that we're going to need in the next couple of months.
Yeah, yeah. And one of the things that I saw is that the way you kind of do, and correct me if I misread it on your website, but you guide people through three phases of money with your financial planning. So I want to talk about that.
My three phases of money, and I just did a reel around this, so this is funny. The first is wallet creation, which is what's going on with your savings, what's going on with your budget, your money management, and then something too, a lot of financial planners are starting to get into is behavior finance. Why
Hmm.
do you operate money the way that you do? Is it something that was rooted when you were a kid, something that you learned, oh, something that was a trauma bond? One of the big questions that I ask people is, what is your money story? When you understand the origin of your money, you'll be able to figure out why you operate the way you do and how you can maybe counterbalance what you're doing. And the
Hmm.
second phase is your wealth creation. That's buying stocks, investing, buying a home, all of those good things. And the third one is your wealth management, which is like the estate planning, the long-term investments, and things like that. But the thing that is interesting with me is that I focus on that whole wave of it and then allow
Hmm.
you to the pace that you probably had at your wallet creation is going to impact what it looks like for wealth management because wealth management in the whole origins of money or the phases of money are not cookie cutter. Just like we say,
Yeah.
finance is personal, is personalized.
Yeah, exactly. And yeah, I agree with seeing that shift of understanding the root cause of why you handle money the way you do. It could be you just don't know. That was one of my issues was like I'm first gen, so I'm the one that's
Yeah.
that's figuring all this out. And so had to figure it out the hard way about credit and all debt and all that stuff. That creates like anxiety and like you said, the trauma and all that stuff with that. And so you had a lot of avoidance at some point where I just like, you know what, I'm just not gonna look at my bank account. It's just
Look at this and that and then, ooh, that's mine. But it's like
yeah,
that you don't know what you don't know. And I
yeah.
when people hammer on retirees, why you didn't save enough? Because they were trying to put their kids through college. They were trying to figure out.
Mm-hmm.
And then a lot of them put their money into pension funds that no longer exist.
Mm-hmm.
And the funds weren't really managed, so they didn't have a lot of funds. And people have to realize
Yeah,
you don't know what you don't know. That
that's
goes
true.
across. Mhm.
Yeah, I was just, matter of fact, funny that you brought up about the pension. And I was sidetracking a little bit because I just saw this yesterday of I was watching another podcast and they were talking about that, about how a lot of people had these pensions and now some of them went bankrupt. And now it's like they put all their eggs in that one basket. And I was like, what? What do we do? Right. And so yeah, sometimes it's just like, well, one, you don't know. And two, sometimes it's just bad luck sometimes because if your
Yeah,
pension ran out
yeah.
and you just never know what might happen. But yeah, so I'm glad that you're including that into your, if I remember, wallet creation was the first one.
Yep.
And then, yeah. And so going into the wealth creation, because it's like one of the things that you want to do as well, that you're working on, is to switch the mindset of how we view retirement. So I want to talk a little bit about that.
One of the things that I saw recently, a lot of people love to talk about the IRA millionaires, and most people are like, okay, yeah, I have to hit 7,000 on the year in my contributions, and most
Hmm.
40% of people don't invest those contributions, but yet, let me stay focused. The thing around it is that you will see that yes, it's 7,000 within a Roth IRA, and that breaks down to $135 on the week. We all know the numbers, but
Hmm.
if someone can look into their budget and say, I can't handle $500 and within investing in VOO 135 on the week. I can only do so much. And the thing around it is that I want people to see is that if you go look at your bank account, look at your budget, determine what can you invest. What's the bill for? That's how I turned it on Threads the other day. Was that it's a
Hmm.
bill that investing is a bill that you're paying, prepaying in the future, and it's like a
Hmm.
non-negotiable. And regardless if you can't do the 135 or regardless if you can't do that 500, what can you do consistently?
Hmm.
Like sum will still increase your sum. It's like compound interest. We all know about compound interest, but if you figure out I can do 100 on the month, but I'm going to invest, I'm going to put it into a IRA, and then I'm going to invest it within this fund, and then this is going to be earmarked to be the income to fund this in retirement.
Yeah.
People think about, oh, having a big retirement bucket, but like we have with budgets, what's your intention for that account? So
Mhm.
my,
Mhm.
okay, what's that going to go towards within a retirement? Is it going to fund my housing? Is my IRA going to fund my lifestyle? But it like the house stuff, anything like that for me to travel. And also too, is that people need to start thinking about when it comes to retirement. What are you going to do? It's a lot of
Mhm.
boring retirement.
Yeah. Yeah, like what are you gonna do? Because yeah, my dad's retiring this year technically and stuff. And so it's like, what are you gonna do, Dad? Like all you done is work like 6 days a week from like 8 to 6, like all the time. Well, except Saturdays, he leaves a little bit, like afternoonish or whatever. But oh my God, I try to get him to slow down so much, but that's what he does. And it's like, what else do you like to do, Dad? And so I'm thinking of ways of to keep him doing something. So next year, since I'll be there with them, and maybe he'll help me do a lot of farm chores because that's what I'll be doing. I'll be homesteading them, growing my own stuff. So I'm sure there'll be a lot of projects that he could help me with and just keep him entertainment. And I'm sure he'll go visit Mexico and everything. I'm kind of working that out with him right now because I know he's gonna be bored.
Because I know somebody right now that's like a couple decades older than me, and someone
Yeah.
is a little, but that someone actually helps me on part of my business. I'm talking about my mother.
Hmm. Hmm.
Put her to work. My little friend,
Yeah.
I'm not little friend now. Her little friend is technically her boss. Well, it's the thing that we talked about, and I thought about that too when I noticed that she retired, and I noticed when my dad had to retire involuntarily because he got cancer.
Hmm.
Because a lot of us them think about just putting money where they tell us to put money, but a lot of these companies do not educate their employees on the right funds on, well, I would say for the big corporations, but when it comes to warehouse, my parents both worked at a auto thing, so their education around the funds to actually grow their funds wasn't the
Hmm.
best. Yeah, just them understanding what they could have done. And I saw that go on, and I was like, yeah, I got to start talking about this. Because I don't want my parents to have to go through what they went through and it not impact how I talk about it. Because I
Hmm.
even go on a rant about the whole, I've been seeing the finance bros saying, well, why these people didn't invest and do what they're supposed to do?
Oh my God, yeah, like they
They
piss me
weren't
off.
even thinking that, but they were happy just to get off of work, let alone what happened. Because
Yeah.
that same company that they worked at, with my dad, literally right after my dad passed away, the whole plant gone.
Phew.
So what happens if the people weren't able, they were thinking, oh, I could start putting money in this bucket for 10 years. I got 10 more years. And then next day you're
Yeah,
gone. So it's
yeah,
just like pooling what we see about retirement is like income streams that you be paid now within the funds that you can do consistently with the goals that you have for what retirement looks like to fund that later. And then maybe you can't invest tens of thousands on a year, but doing some is still going to increase your sum and having an implementation for how you handle it. And what does that look like in practicality is what's going to be key. The same way
yeah,
people an emergency fund for this. So what's the plan for you have to use the emergency? That's the same way I want people to start thinking about when it comes to retirement. What's your plan? Yes, you have to
yeah.
pay. What's the actual plan?
Yeah, they get on my nerves because again, like us first gens, we're usually the retirement plan. And a lot of people that like don't understand, they'll guilt trip, and I get it that, but my parents didn't know. Like they didn't know. They thought if they just put money in the bank, they would be good. And it's like it's nowhere near enough. And they were scared about credit. They were scared of investing. They didn't know about any stock stuff. And when my mom well, my dad, he's a mechanic, so he has his own shop. So what, like, where is he putting, right? And I didn't know to tell him that he could have just opened up his own account or whatever. And so my dad's thinking, you know what? I started this business. I could sell it in the future.
Mhm.
Yeah, but you're not gonna get what you think you're gonna get, Dad. And my mom, like, yeah, she finally got a job where there's a 401k and stuff. But like you said, they don't tell them what to do with it. So like, so she's like, okay. And so now here comes me trying to fix everything and make sure that they're good for retirement, that I'm good for retirement, and then that my daughter is gonna be good for retirement. So like,
Generational aspect, like, yeah, I have to be like, what was the thing I posted on LinkedIn the other day about the sandwich generation, which we technically
mm-hmm,
are, taking
mm-hmm.
care of one generation as well as another generation as we smash in the middle. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, so it's so frustrating when, like you said, I see the finance pros, and then of course they'll be like, "Yeah, if you put like $500 a month or $1,000, you can retire by age like 30 or something like that." For the average person, dude, you can't.
No, you can't do a
Yeah,
statement on stuff like that. Yes, you want the aesthetic of what retirement gonna feel like, but if you are like hanging on by a thread,
yeah,
hard it's like to weave it together with saying I have to have 500. I'm like, what the heck can they get 500 if I look at somebody's budget and cash flow and
yeah.
they think like the whole notion of if I just make more money, but if you
Hmm.
don't understand how to manage your money, whenever you do find that extra 500, if you are able to and to invest it where they tell you to, how are you going to manage the rest of the day to day if you haven't even figured it out at the level you're at now?
Yeah, and a lot of times we could just look at going back to the other one
Mhm.
uh of just going our budget, because there's some bills that or subscriptions. I can't tell you how long it was. I'm not even gonna say how long I was paid this one that I didn't even use anymore. And I finally got around to canceling it, and that was like $57, which is not much, but over the time that I had it going, like, and or gym memberships that we didn't use, I have that one too. At least the credits don't go away. And just things like that, or just I guess auditing your budget to see the things that you're actually not using.
Mhm.
And that's why, again, is I'm glad that people like you are in this space that are making it more achievable, because it's more relatable and
Yeah.
more actionable, of thinking of putting maybe $50, like do something, versus the finance bros like, well, if you're not putting 500, then you're trash or whatever.
Yeah. It's literally how they make it feel like you're trash. A long time ago, I was like, when I was just starting to post and talk about my money, I was like, what? No, that's not how it is. And I don't know if I make a lot of the finance bros mad, but it's
Yeah.
okay. It's because a lot of people can't do that. So what can
Yeah.
they do? And then how can they implement it for it to still grow? That's the thing that it is, yeah, no, I can't stand finance.
Yeah. And I like your mindset shift too, of switching, of thinking that, you know what, like retirement's gonna be like paying everything. Like, no, let's at least start with what bill in the future can it pay, like my phone bill or whatever. And those little things start to add up. So it's little stepping stones, and it's kind of hard to see it right now play out, right? Because we're so used to kind of like quick fixes and things that give it stuff
Instant.
back right away. Yeah, there you go. I was trying to think of the instant gratification.
Whole
I was like,
microwave
God,
whole microwave aspect when it comes to money,
uh,
but sometimes it's the simmering and making sure you put it on the right temperature when you're cooking it. And I'm looking at myself. You're cooking it. You want to make sure that it comes out the right way because if you go and read, sometimes the fact that okay, if you go get something at the store and it tells you to do 350 for your stove, which in the relation when it comes to investing, your stove is like your risk tolerance of say your risk
hmm.
appetite. If you know that your stove is not going to really able to do 450, but it's still going to get things right, you're going to turn it back into what fits right. And that's the
Hmm.
thing that people need to start thinking of. Yes, you hear people tell you to do this in articles and algorithms, but what does your algorithm say? What does your stove says? What can you cook on what temperature and it's going to still come out the same way? It might take a little longer than a microwave or an air fryer, but
Hmm.
it's good.
I love that. I love that. I like thinking of it. Yeah, the oven. You have to adjust it to what, is what your oven. Because they're probably using some like top-notch oven and in the blog they're telling you three or 450 or whatever, but yours is like
I'm like,
it's gonna
gas. What's that gas? Whatever the Viking something stove. Oh, no, no.
Yeah, no, my little rinky-dink freaking stove. I know I gotta put it a little bit slower or it's gonna
A little slower, but a different temperature, but I'm not gonna burn it because if you
yeah.
put it in at the temperature someone tells you to do, and you know that your stove can't handle that, and you do it anyway, and you overburn something to undercook it, you be mad.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's perfect. I love that. One, it's wealth management. And I love how you mentioned it at the beginning of with wallet creation of how important it is to set that foundation of your budget
Mhm.
because managing your where your money is going is very important in the later of actually managing it too.
It is very important because if you're just putting money, oh, I need to put money here and put money there, let me take a step back because the product, I used to be a product manager, a product marketing manager. So if you put your product in the wrong, like your money, your paper in the wrong product, but you don't know how to manage it, and you're supposed to be for wealth management and it doesn't perform well because you see what the finance pros tell you to do and you do it and it
Mm-hmm.
doesn't to it, you could overburn it. And that goes into wealth management. Like if I have it within a 401k and I haven't checked to see if there's any service fees, if I haven't checked to see how it's performing, because I'm just going to put it in, let's just say we love target date funds. If you notice that, hey, my target date fund hasn't been performing well, but I'm just going to let it ride anyway. And then
Mm-hmm.
you're like, where the heck is my money? Because you put in the fund
Yeah.
high fees, high expense ratio, and it's not performing the same way versus you checking it. The thing when it comes to wealth management, though, is that even if you work with a financial planner or you try to DIY, I'm all for the DIY, is
Mm-hmm.
that you still check to see how things are going. You have to, yes, a watch pot will slow the boil, but you still have to check in on it every so often to see how things are going, even if you work with somebody or you do it yourself.
Yeah, yeah. And I think real quick, just want to talk about a little bit about target date funds in case for people that might not know what that is.
Target date funds is a little bit of a conglomerate. Okay, let me think about this. Think
Mhm.
about ETFs, which are like buckets of stocks, all those things, some bonds or whatever. And it
Mhm.
is in the same form of the funds that the bonds, mutual funds, and things like that. Think target date funds as being like the grown-up version of an ETF or index
Mhm.
funds. Like the
Mhm.
like ETFs, index funds, uh target date funds in a sense. And the
Yeah.
thing with target date funds is that recently I had to take a step and say it is that a lot of these target date funds that these fund managers formulate to have not been performing well. So even
Mhm.
if you put, like the set it and forget it and it puts money into your off every so often, I had to tell one of my favorite clients, which is my sister, that hey, this target date fund is not performing well. Well, why isn't it? Not been built the right ways. That even if you
Yeah.
said it, you still have to check on it, which technically that's my job of hers is to check on it. And
Yeah.
because the performance has not been is projected what think it to be. So now a lot of people have been rethinking not only the target date funds that they have at their company, but one of the things I tell people to say is that if you know that you have this is the target date fund that you have, looking to see what's under the hood. When you take and see what's under the hood, go and put it into a Google Finance like a watch list. I have a watch list on I'm looking at it now that
Mhm.
has understanding on what the fund in your target date funds is and put it right here. So you might not have to log in every so often, but you can look and say, I don't know how that's performing. Why
Yeah.
is it not performing? And if you have a 401k that's being operated by fund manager and with your employer, you pay a service fee for your
Mhm.
401k. Call those people and ask them, why hasn't this target date fund been performing towards what was projected in the forecast that I have for the year when it comes to it? A lot
Mm,
a lot of money on the table because yes, you have a 401k, yes, you put it and set it, forget it in these target date funds, but you're not calling the service fee. You pay a service fee. So when you pay a
yeah,
service, like you said, it's like you sign up for the gym membership and you don't go to the gym. Like you pay a service fee and you don't call and ask, why is it this not going on? You don't want
yeah.
to pay a bill and just be nothing on TV. You're like, well, it's okay. No, you call the service fee. The service pay that service fee and you ask them, hey, can you give me more feedback on why this fund is not performing well? What do you think about the allocation mix that I have within my 401k?
Mhm,
Is there something I could do to actually match the goals that I have for it? So if you have a 401k, you have within a company or a 403b or where have it, and you're paying a service fee, call those people. The same way
yeah.
that you call negotiate for a bill, call and ask for information about that target date fund, your 401k, your bonds, your large cap fee, your large cap fund, all of those things that
Mhm.
are in the hood of your 401k.
Yeah, yeah, we have in the military, we have our version of the 401ks called the Thrift Savings Plan, TSP and everything. And there's quite a few target date funds there. I'm glad I didn't get them. I just put them in, I think I have them in the C fund or whatever.
Oh,
But don't ask me what fund it was at the beginning for like my first 8 years in the military. I'd always kick myself, but I'm like, you know what? It's done. Like, but I
no,
had it
because
in the government.
you learn it. Like I would pay my
Yeah.
like let me put it in this penny stock, and then I'm like, what the heck am I doing? You learn. That's the thing. As you learn, you leverage. So
Yeah, that's how I had to learn the hard way per usual. That's just I just accept it now that I just learn things the hard way, unfortunately. And with the last little bit of your wealth management, is there other things that you help your clients like help protect their wealth when it comes to transferring it to the next generation? Because I want to know, 'cause I want to make sure my daughter's not struggling like I am.
what did I say recently? Is that parents are their child's first financial planner. You
Hmm.
set up and open the 529. You set up and open the UGMA, UTMA, all the good alphabet soup when it comes to it. But I charge parents to not only make sure that their planning is good, but whenever their kids are growing up, that you actually start involving them to say,
Hmm.
is why I have this account right here. Or if I have a custodial account, this is what I want to get their input on what their financial goals are. So it's
Hmm.
good to not only say if you want to open up a 529 because you want your kids to go to school and then you notice by the sixth grade they're like against it. What's your plan to reallocate if any of those
Hmm.
funds in case they change their mind, just in case they do want to go to school. But it's all about showing them what you're doing with your money, involving them on what you are doing with their money or your money, your
Hmm.
the notion people are like, oh, that's my broke best friend. No, they're not. So it's but it's about involving them in the process and then actually say, okay, this is what I have for you. But can I take the 529 and roll it over into a Roth IRA now that Miss Secure 2.0 gives parents their option? What funds actually want to grow funds? And then when it comes to the estate planning, the reason why I got into being a financial planner or taking it to the financial planner level is because my dad passed away
Hmm.
with everything in tow. And he did everything right from what he heard. Because my parents, they learned a lot by hearsay or hear other people
Hmm.
say. And when he passed away, everything went left. Like,
Mm.
yeah, that's all I can say without getting annoyed. But it
Yeah.
was a lot of people who learn about estate planning, learn about probates and things like that whenever someone dies, but no one has the conversation around, "Well, this is what I have for you. This is what I have for you. This is who's on the beneficiary on this life insurance policy. This is who is on my bank account. They're on a POD. A lot of people have been talking about PODs lately because people are learning. I see so many people that have bank accounts with people or their family member didn't have them on a bank account, but they knew their bank account information, but they couldn't access the assets
Hmm.
where they weren't listed on the POD.
Hmm.
It
And what's a POD? The
payable on death is just like
Okay.
a beneficiary for somebody passed away, like on my bank
Mhm.
account. My POD is my sister.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
who, if never I passed away, that's who it is. So it's about learning what type of documents within an estate plan it is that you need. And also a thing that I've been taking me take a step back is that go and get a spreadsheet. Go and get a sheet of paper and write down every account that you have. Write down who's a beneficiary. Write it out, and then put it in something that I love to call a legacy box, which or some people will call it a death box, where everything
Mhm.
is packed and right there. My dad's legacy death box was his briefcase, and I knew exactly where it was because we had this conversation. So when he
Yeah.
died, I was like, it's right here. Oh, like the whole
Mhm.
rest of the family, besides my sister, no one knew where it was at because he had that
Mm.
conversation with us. He had the whole will and he had trust and he had everything like that. He didn't have a trust. I wish he did. But he knew I'm supposed to have a will. I'm supposed to have a life insurance policy. But it goes back to saying, making a list of what you have, making a list of who it impacts, talking with them, and then making sure those accounts and documents are updated every so often.
Mhm. Yeah, that's definitely on my to-do list next year. But it's just me and my sister, like right now. And now it's like you can have their house and stuff.
Oh, well,
Yeah.
because it's five of us. Yeah,
Yeah.
thanks. Five of us. And whatever y'all want. I just be happy to like it was my dad. I didn't really
Yeah.
want I wasn't so prone on the stuff, but more so on the sentiment behind the stuff. And
Yeah.
they, what do you want? Man? It is what it is. But yeah.
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 Oh,
Be a
yeah.
tough
Yeah.
talk.
That's
It could be a tough talk, but it has to be done before someone is on a hospital bed. And this is something I want to bring out too, is
hmm
that the whole notion between will and a living will, that conversation is not talked about enough. Where everyone talks about a power of attorney, like if something happens to you, this is the person who can answer the question, this is the person to do this. But a living will or trust actually outlines in case of emergency what they give the instruction to what needs to be said.
hmm
So it's good for people to start learning about these different tools, but when you write down what you currently have, you make a plan for it, then you can figure out what ways to go about it. Maybe it is working with a estate planning attorney. Maybe it
hmm
is utilizing a platform like, oh, what I love. Trust and Will and Encore Estates is one that I've been talking highly of if people want to do it themselves when it comes to estate planning. But yeah, just having the talk and doing the tactics to make sure that the transfer happens the way you want it to.
Yeah. Yeah. That's such an important thing that we tend to forget about. And I want to make sure that my daughter and my stepson aren't fighting. Like everything's divvied up.
Yep,
And because it creates tension and everything like that. And you don't want that.
I've seen some stuff. Like I love to
Yeah.
talk about celebrities estates. Who was that? God dang it. Gosh. Quincy Jones estate. And everybody
Uh-huh.
was how much his estate was, I believe it's around, yeah. But every child got $80 million. And everyone's like, what does that have to do? But it's about understanding he did an even split per child. But I've heard of Prince's estate or Aretha Franklin's estate where
Uh-huh.
one had a different copy of a estate plan or
Oh,
uh,
wow.
the other child, and they had a contestant. They found something else in the sofa cushion, and yeah, it could get really dark really quick. While you're already sad, you having to deal with a pro. Yeah,
Yeah.
dark
Oh,
quick.
wow. Wow. Dang. Yeah, thank you for coming on here and having this conversation and talking about the importance of financial planning and things that our communities need to get on the ball on and stuff and be a little bit more proactive on it. But for those that want to do financial planning and work with you, what kind of services do you provide and where can they find you?
On my website, thebrandsandbands.com, I list out budget and cash flow planning. I have a financial reset. I have a quarterly where you want to just look over what's going on with your investments, but I also have the financial planning aspect, which is like looking over your assets, looking to see what suggestions I make and things like that.
hmm
So I have different tiers of it all.
Awesome. And I will have all your information listed below so that way they can reach you and get on this financial planning. And but other than that, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me. It's been a good conversation.
Okay, well, I will see everyone in the next episode. Bye. Thank you so much for listening. Don't forget to like and share this episode so others can also find this podcast. Don't forget to follow me on all my social medias listed in the show notes below, where you can also find resources to help you in your financial journey. If you're interested in becoming a guest on the podcast, you can find that information in the show notes. Other than that, thank you so much for your support, and I will see you in the next episode. Bye.